Hello and welcome everybody to the Blue Abroad Show on this Monday, the 5th of December. It's a pleasure to be here with Pommy. Hello, mate.
Hey, how we doing? Are we all right?
Mate, we are all right. We're up and about. We're clear. Conscious is clear. Everyone's feeling a little refreshed, and I think the fact that training is back and the boys are back, and we've seen an open training session, I think slowly but surely the excitement builds.
It does, isn't it? It's that wonderful time of year, isn't it? Like a bit weird this year because we've had the later draft. So it feels like we haven't really had a postseason from my perspective. And then we've also got the World Cup. So I'm kind of heavily invested in that. So like the football just released just at half time in the Australia-Argentina game, which I thought was very bizarre. Starting to feel real, isn't it? It's 102 days, isn't it? 101 days?
102 days, I think. I think it is 102 days until round one, something like that. Or yeah,
Not long.
no, not at all. Well, I guess we should touch on the World Cup, the Mundial. Did you get up and watch the Aussies the other night?
I did indeed. Yeah, I've watched every game bar two of the fixtures that were on at the same time. I haven't even rewatched them. So, but I am a massive World Cup. I try and watch every game, and heartbreaking for the Aussies. Even me as a Pom, I started to cheer for the Aussies. I got really into it. Wasn't meant to be. The fairy tale won in the end. That is Messi's. Probably you'd imagine retirement from international football, but credit to the Australians. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's great for the A-League. Pretty much all of them play there. A lot of them come from local footy as well, your NPFL and your Victorian leagues and stuff like that, which is really exciting. And hopefully for Aussies in 12 years' time, someone watching this show with kids, it's their kids that are going out there and doing the nation proud. But round 16 for Australia is a huge achievement to be one of the 16 best sides in the world at this event. That's huge.
100%. There were two things that I really resonated with watching the game the other morning. Number one, obviously Matt Ryan's little error on the goal line. I've been a Carlton supporter for 31 years. I've seen that happen way too often to know what that feeling is like. A little unlucky. But two, it goes to show what a little belief can do. I mean, a loss is a loss. You don't want to gloss over it, but the belief that they showed, even just to get to the round of 16, I think is something that we can draw from as a footy club at Carlton.
We have none of that nonsense in the world game of equalisation or anything like that. It's the biggest superpower is the best, and the powerful stay powerful. And to get into the upper echelons, you have to get in there by effort and earn it. You can't just be handed it. And you know that was the Aussies. I remember at the start of the tournament doing it with Paolo on SEN. Loads of Australians being negative, and I was like, get behind them, belief, and they'll feel it because international football is about passion. It's about something more than skill level. And what's fantastic about Australia is you guys got behind them, and you guys and girls got behind them, and they played for you. And you know what? It's no shame going out to Argentina. Do you know what I mean? And probably one of the greatest players nearly of all time in Lionel Messi. It required him to really put on a show as well. So, I mean, credit to them. All them boys should return home as heroes and a great benchmark now for next 4 years, and be exciting time because it's a great game. It's a great game. I know we're here to talk about AFL, but round ball is a great game as well and brings people together like our great AFL does.
Depending on the time of the year. I do want to give a shout out to this young man here, Ari Stamatakos. I remember, so Ari, obviously everybody knows who Ari is from the channel, co-host of The Rest. I remember going into the World Cup being that pessimist, just being like, yeah, I'm going to watch the Aussies, but expecting nothing. And I remember a particular video that Ari put out on his podcast. By the way, he hosts a podcast called the Two-Footed Tackle Podcast. It's all about the world game. And I remember the video Ari was talking about, you know, like, why can't we just get around what is with this negative behavior? And I remember thinking, you know, he's got a point. Just get around them until they're not there anymore. And it was cool to see the validation come back to him at the end, and copped a bit of shit for it on TikTok. And sometimes you've got to put yourself out there, and if you believe in something, you should speak it. So well done to Ari.
Nothing good is bred in negativity. Do you know what I mean? So only two avenues for you to go if you're a negative mindset, and that is depressed or disappointed. Do you know what I mean? But why not enjoy it and embrace it? And you know what? Proud of them. And it's the same with Carlton. Do you know what I mean? Carlton, history will say Carlton are a rubbish side in the last decade, but that doesn't mean that you've got to keep in that mindset, because what them Australians showed is by no way, and let's be honest, this is I'm sure Ari will agree with me. Australia don't deserve on talent to be in the 16 sides by talent, but talent means fuck all with that application. You know what? I was proud to watch them, and it's disappointing for them to come home today and media are panning them for getting a photo with Lionel Messi and stuff like that. The guy's an icon. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would lick the studs of his boots to get a photo with Lionel Messi. You are looking at a living god. You know what I mean? Let's get that right. So they need all the kudos, and hopefully our boys can do the same. Us get behind them, and you see what happens. The power of a nation lifts you, and you heard that noise, that last qualification game against Denmark. Australians were mental, man. Like, I was loving that on the TV, hearing the Aussies chant. I haven't heard an Australian chant ever in my life. There were quite witty chants as well, I've got to say. And it was good to see. It was good to see. And do you know what I mean? Power of us, power of us. So with Carlton, to make it Carlton focused, always remember that belief goes a long way. If your fans believe in you, you can beat the best.
Totally. So tonight we're going to have a fun show. We're going to talk about a few things. We'll talk a bit about the boys back at training. We'll get a quick recap of the draft, even though it's come and gone. The new kids are back. They're there. Everyone's back at training. We'll get some updates on some injury concerns. We'll talk a bit about strength and conditioning. It's been a popular topic over the last week or so. We'll talk a little bit about season 2023, be a little bit more interactive tonight. I'm going to put the link in about 15 minutes. I'll put the link in the comments, and we'll invite anybody in the audience to come and join in and ask a question or just shoot the shit for a little bit, and slowly make our way to season 2023. So why don't we start with, I know I didn't say this in the run sheet earlier, Pom, but a general draft recap. The boys have arrived, the young fellas. Those of you at home, what did you make of draft night? And Pommy, obviously, I know you've covered it extensively, but I don't know. From my point of view, it was great business. Got our needs filled really clearly, and pretty happy with off season in general.
Mate, Nick Austin reminded me a little bit like the funeral director at my nana's funeral. She lowered the old lady down. He fucking nailed it. Do you know what I mean? He nailed it in. Do you know what I mean? And I'm really impressed. Really impressed. Ollie Hollands probably wasn't the biggest surprise in the world. I think we linked him here about 6 months ago. Do you know what I mean? And then the media caught on. My boy Cohen, he came in, do you know what I mean? Which maybe was the surprise. No one had linked him with him. But if you watch Blue Abroad, we did.
You did.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? We had Lemmy and we had Binsey as well. It makes sense. So, I mean, to break them down, definitely when you look at our wings at the moment, it's O'Brien as the natural wing. Cottrell's probably the most aggressive and most dynamic of the two of them. And then outside of that, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's putting Walshy there. It's throwing Chera through there. That's not ideal. You don't want to have that as one of your third rotations. Generally, the top teams play four. So he makes sense with Akers coming in. That's a nice little contrast. Binsey is that very offensive winger. So he's going to be like that offshoot for Cottrell and keep Cottrell honest. Because you've got to remember, Cottrell's come from nowhere. And I think he's a very good player. But can he back it up again? He's got better, and now he's got reason to, because I can tell you from speaking to Binsey personally, Binsey wants that job. So if I'm Cottrell, I'm worried. O'Brien, now he's got Hollands as a rivalry, and we saw last year players got dropped like O'Brien instantly back in because there was no one else. Guarantee you now, if O'Brien has a quiet game and Vossi drops him, there's no way on God's green Hollands is giving that position up. And then Lockie is the most logical sense in the world. If you look at Carlton and you say, what's our problem? Transition. And what are all the AFL clubs doing now? Transition, transition, transition. What don't Carlton have in the back line? Someone that can take an intercept grab and a long booming kick. And he is the modern day high halfback flank. I wouldn't be surprised to see him line up in the pocket early doors as that taller guy. So he's a phenomenal player, and I had huge raps on him. We know I'm a sucker for a Tasmanian. And Lemmy, probably the most perfect answer to Carlton's questions. We wanted a tall, we were worried about the ruck, and we were worried about backline depth. And that guy, by chance, because of my mate Tom Scully, happened to play all three of them roles for Adelaide because he was in and out of the side because they had a plethora of tolls and learnt a variety of roles. So learning off one of the best key defenders in the competition in Wheaterin, learning off one of the best key forwards of the competition in Kerno and Mackay, and learning off two hard rucks. He's got a real great opportunity, Lemmy, and he could be the one, actually, when it's all said and done, even though I said Cohen was a top 15 pick, in my opinion, if he wasn't Tasmanian. Lemmy could be the one that we look back in 10 years and go, what a steal, because a lot of big guys come from them positions and go on to be super players. So he's one that I want everyone to really look out for.
The thing about Lemmy as well, I was thinking about it over the last few days. I mean, if you look at our reserve side, I mean, there hasn't really been a clear, distinguishable key forward. So he's going to have a really good opportunity for that ball to come to him a lot more often than what it normally would for other forwards who are on a list with other key forwards there. I think that's one of the key holes in the VFL list as well. And the beauty is, like, you draft a kid, you don't have to worry about putting any expectation on him to play any games. Like he's I like the look of him. He's a clean looking boy. Looks got a bit of class, touch of class about him. Cohen, something about the way he looks. He looked, for me, looking at photos and seeing him at the open trading session last week, out of all of them, he's the one that I looked at and I said to myself, I reckon he looks big enough to play. Like he could play. I don't know if he will play straight away, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a few more games than what we expect.
They're all, I would say, like, do you know what I mean? If you look at them, there's a great argument that you'll see a lot of them in the first season. Lemmy will be an outside chance, you would say, barring injury, because I think Carlton are in a privileged position that they can look after him, which is a good idea. But you look at Carlton's VFL side, and I think you nailed it there. They've been desperate for a key forward, and there's always been that rumour, isn't there, that one of them's going to come onto the list, particularly when we had them niggles last year. Jesse Glass-McAster, nowhere near AFL level. Nowhere near AFL level. He's had his chance, and you watch him at VFL, he's just steady there. Ben Crocker, no way in hell. It doesn't work. Having a smaller, tall player, he won't get that luxury in AFL level. Few smaller players do well. Dustin Martin's a freak of nature. Petraka's a freak of nature. He's nowhere near that level. And then you look at the other one, Josh Cripps. And we said it at the time doing the draft preview. People were saying, what about Cripsy? What about Henry Walsh? If you don't perform at a decent standard at under 19s, under 18s, very few, you're talking less than 0.5% will make it at AFL grade. And you could see last year in VFL, Josh Cripps miles away from senior football. So Lemmy has dominated his levels. Unlucky where he got his injury last year when he came into the West Adelaide side. Got knocked out of it, but showed great resilience to relearn to be a key defender, to do pinch hitting in the ruck. And that's something that Carlton will really put a high commodity on, is he could have put his head down and gone, fuck this. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of them do. I watch the draft a lot. A lot of them, when they lose their place early doors, the fight goes. Because he was the top 10 pick with his mate Scully. Both of them showed something and said, you know what? I'm not quitting. And they redeveloped and they redesigned themselves and they learned on the job. And Lemmy, you know what? Whether we play him forward, back, a utility, swingman, whatever, he's got very good teachers. Do you know what I mean? There's no excuses for Lens. Like, we're learning off Harry and Kerno and you can't get good. Jesus, playing on Wheaterin every day, you can't get good. If he can't get good at this club, he can't get good anywhere. So good luck to Harry. He's He's a nice little boy, though, isn't he? There's something about him. He's got that face, hasn't he?
Just a
You can see him.
clean skin. Yeah, he's a clean
You
looking
can
boy.
see him doing Bonds adverts, can't you? When he gets his six pack, you can't you? He's a good-looking rooster, big boy as well. Big
Something
boy.
about him. Yeah, no, I was very happy. Very, very happy with that. I think somebody on Instagram, when I asked for questions for the show, they mentioned about, I'll tell you right now, it was something about, should we be in search of tall defender depth? Because Cowan's not really a tall defender. And I was like, maybe. But like at this stage, Marchbank is there, McGovern is there and fit, Lewis Young is there, Sam Durden is there, Wiedering is there. I think it's enough. I don't expect 2022's injury situation to repeat itself. I hope.
I've been quite firm on this when people have asked about key defenders. The media push that agenda, absolutely balmy to me. And the ruck agenda. And for me, as soon as the trade window closed, the only place that I could say you needed depth, it ended as the window closed because Carlton had the opportunity. So that would suggest to me that with the contracts being what they are, McGovern, Marchbank, and Sam Durden are going to be trusted with that auxiliary role. Marchbank probably more so than McGovern at that tall role. And that's something that Marchbank has trained at for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? For 2 years. And then I think people forget that our injuries last year were a freak. You look at Port, they had a similar injury list and it really screwed their season up. They haven't worried about it. Do you know what I mean? They've put it down. And this time next year, a lot of these injured players are out of contract. So it's quite easy this time next year just to sack them off. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 of these players who have been injured, if they don't get it right this year, no longer be on the list because Voss and Nick Austin have both talked about being available and being robust. So I think that is an absolute key ingredient there that I think they've trusted them and said, you're going to get your body right. If not, they're 10 a penny. Do you know what I mean? Because Lewis Young, both our positions are locked in for 10 years. It's basically either finding a very reliable backup or a very hot protege. And we don't have to worry about that protege for 3 years with the age groups. So Carlton are in a fortunate position. We can get anyone who's reliable. Andrew McPherson, people like that, boring names, as long as they're fit to back up. So Carlton are in a real good position here, I think. It's a real strong position to be in for us.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Well, speaking of health injuries, so Andrew Russell did an interview with Tom Mitchell on the Ball Magnets app. And, we went for about 45 minutes or an hour. And he spoke about his philosophy. It was sort of followed by a bit of a discussion on Twitter, which a lot of people saw and asked about. And these things sometimes get a little heated and people, feel strongly either way. I think it's a good topic. I mean, I listened to Andrew Russell. I listened to his philosophy on training. He mentioned that it hasn't changed too much throughout his time. It's very individualized. So Pom, you firstly, what are your thoughts on our high performance / strength and conditioning at the club, and you guys at home? What is your view on the department and how it's been since Andrew Russell got to the club? Is it fair to pin it on Andrew Russell, or is there something else more there? I never really know the balance of how much you put the responsibility of someone's, ability to manage their body on the high performance staff as opposed to the actual player themselves and the extras that they do.
I think, firstly, I understand the criticism. He was bought in at a time where I think we were clinging for anything. Do you know what I mean? I think if you could have brought anyone in, who was good at anything, a chef. You could have brought them in Jamie Oliver in and we would have all got excited. I mean, going, Jamie Oliver, TV chef, we're coming. We were literally we were that bad. But I think when you listen to Cookie and you listen to Voss, and they've done interviews in the last 3 months since we finished, defending him in the terms of, it does sound like there's a lot of improvement in aerobic fitness and in output in how they train. That's come from the players as well in their willingness to do it. You also then take into account that a lot of the injuries were impact injuries. A lot of the injuries are players that are always injured. So you can't count McGovern. You can't count players like Jack Martin. You can't count these players because these guys, like, honestly, they could get injured going for a bus at the moment, historically. Now, if that's Russell's fault, I would say Marchbank was injured before Russell. Cunningham was injured before Russell. Like, you can't blame him for that. That could be part of their genetic makeup. Some people are just very unlucky. And let's hope that's stopped, because Marchbank, terrific player, fantastic player. Martin, terrific player. Let's hope that sorts. You have got to criticize it, though. I don't think anyone is immune from criticism. And he was highly billed. He was highly touted. He was highly sought after. We presume on a lot of money. The truth be told, though, no one in chat can make an informed opinion unless you get numbers from the club of before and after, and you can create a linear progression. From the outside, yes, there's been a lot of injuries. That needs to be touched on. I would say, though, when you listen to Voss and you listen to Cook, there has been accusations that the club has pushed these players because they were so far behind when Vossi came in. So, ergo, that could be the case that maybe Russell's been interfered with. The review did talk about there was some interference. Was that Russell? You also look at, we could also argue as well, great comment here, Charlie. Do you know what I mean? Charlie's fit and firing now. And this time last year, most of the fan base about this time, when I said he was going to win the Coleman, said he'll never play football again. Do you know what I mean? So Russell's also, you could say, are we blaming Russell for Charlie? And Charlie's talked openly about the change in his fitness and his application and what he does. So it's a tough one to call. Has it been a success? I don't think anyone at that club can be called a success, because Carlton haven't even made finals, let alone win a flag. If Carlton run out and win a flag next year, I imagine all the people complaining about Russell are going to say that we need to build a statue of him outside Icon Park because Carlton have run games out. So time will tell. I trust. This is one of them things that I don't know enough about what's going on. Yes, the injuries are mental, but who's pulling the strings on that, in my terms? Do you know what I mean? We know Teague and Cripps. There was that Stoich that one wanted them to play. Cripps didn't want to play because of his Cripps wanted to play. Teague didn't want it. Who's controlling the strings before? This is a new regime. If there's injuries this year, I would say he'd have to go. And I don't think there's anyone in the chat that would disagree with that. If it happens again, maybe Carlton need to relook at that thing. But the fact he survived the review and people that were immune got sacked would suggest to me that maybe there is something there that we don't know from the outside looking in, that he's been backed in.
Yeah, totally. My opinion and my perception of the situation is that I think it's the way he got to the club, the talk around him being the guru and coming from Hawthorn and Port Adelaide and being this famous high performance operator and conductor of the program, knowing how well he was paid and therefore relative to the expectation you put on him. When I look back at the whole time that he's been here so far, I think, okay, anecdotally, obviously, because I don't have the information in front of me, I'm not in the club. Do I feel like we've had an advantage with our fitness over the last 3 to 4 seasons since he's been here? I can't really point anything out that we've had an edge. Maybe it's just relative to wins and losses, and that's just the name of the game. But I don't know. I have no issue with questioning such things. I think it's important to question everything. How can you have a mechanism for accountability if you're not asking the question? And I'm sure he's asking the question of himself. You know, like he spoke about stress in the interview with Tom Mitchell. It was a really interesting grab. And if you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. It's very insightful, and it obviously gives you a small window into him, the program, and his philosophy. But he says we have this negative connotation with stress. And he's like, the body needs stress. You need to put stress on the body in order for it to grow. So maybe there is a method to the madness. He spoke about the program at Brisbane in the early 2000s and how they were a very powerful team. He spoke about the program at Port Adelaide that he was a big part of. And they were very much a massive surging running team. Carlton, like I almost think we're trying to be, or we're wanting to be, a hybrid of the two. So we'll see what happens. 2022 was a real shit year for injuries. think 2021 was also. He also touched on Patrick Cripps, which was an interesting grab as well. Like we all saw Cripps' season in 2022, which was very impressive. He wins the Brownlow. We know that the 2 years prior to that, he struggled a little bit. And Russell spoke about some of the issues that he was having in the preseason. He didn't kick a footy until after Christmas in the season that just passed because he didn't disclose exactly what it was, but he said Cripps had something he was managing. So he also made mention of the mental cognitive fatigue that Cripps was under. And I guess maybe some of the other players were as well. So, he mentioned that the best thing to do is to get away, get out of your environment and refresh and recharge. And once you step out of your environment, you start missing the one that you're generally a part of, which makes a lot of sense. I just got back from 3 weeks away. I actually missed Melbourne at the end of the trip. I was like, before I left, I was like, fuck everyone, fuck everything, fuck footy. Don't want to see anyone. I'm just not wanting to be around the environment. And then by the end of it, I'm like, mate, get me back. I miss it. I miss the people,
Glad you had a break, mate. Glad you're refreshed.
You got to get to the beach, mate. You got to do it.
Hey, do you know what I mean? Been beaten like an old haggard dog. But no, I mean, I've got to say, no, I agree with you, Terry. I think you've nailed it there. And I think you'd be very foolish not to ask questions. About anything. Do you know what I mean? About anything. Yeah. I question anyone who's blindly saying Russell's perfect. All I can say is there's been a lot of injuries. I think you'd be an idiot to argue there hasn't. My counter to that would be a lot of these injuries are guys that are serially injured. Let's be honest. And when we bought them, they were serial injuries as well, a lot of them. And then the other token is Voss to the other coaches, a lot more running involved in this game. It's a lot more out in the open as well. The stats are stats. Do you know what I mean? You can see it's a lot more physically demanding, and Voss expects a lot more around the contest. There's a lot more contact in them areas where Teague kind of was a bit more skirty the way he played and skirted around the congested areas. Bolton was just anything was good. So there's that to take into account. I find it. Would I say he's been brilliant? No. Would I say he's been a failure? No, because they did run games out last year, and a lot of it was mental, I'd say, frailty on the players' part. Totally. I think this time next year, though, I'd like to see it. I'd say that the second year under Voss's game plan is usually where people get sacked in soccer. I'd say that he survived the review, and I hope the review, I've got to trust the club, did a proper review. They didn't just go, oh, Russell, what a flag with Hawthorn. Brilliant. Let's not look at him. So, but you've got to ask questions. Like, don't ever fall out with people for asking questions, I don't think. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Let's talk a bit about the players of note who have injury concerns, and then we're going to bring in some guests. Actually, what I'll do is I'll prepare everyone. I'll put the link in the comments now for those that want to join. There's the link. All right. So Sam Walsh was the big one. Now, I went to training last week. Saw he wasn't there. Was told that he wouldn't be training in the full group until after Christmas. We got a little bit more information on that from the club. I think Harry Mackay probably settled people down. Definitely settled me down when he mentioned that, he was pretty sure that come round one, he'll be in a position to play his best footy. He's a professional, just being managed. Who knows what it really is? At the end of the day, he's unavailable to train in a full capacity, and that just is a fact. Now, I guess I was worried because round 23 was quite some time ago now. George Hewitt seems to be doing a little bit more than what Walshy is at this point, and I thought George Hewitt's injury was pretty bad. Like he had the surgery on the back. So, yeah, you just get worried when you hear the word back and injury and hot spots and spasms or whatever it is. It's just not a very good thing to be listening to, especially when you're playing this sport. So fingers crossed Walsh is all right. And I think the other one, it's good to see Dave Cunningham. A photo
Still
of Dave
Cunningham. If it is Dave Cunningham, though, like, remember Paul McCartney has been the head of the Beatles and he died in 1968. So remember that.
Yeah. So, I guess it does warm the heart a little bit to see Dave Cunningham there. But at the same time, said this before. I think I said it in my video during the week. Like, there's no more pinning hopes and dreams on these players anymore. It's just those who are going to be out there and available. Like, I'm past the point now. I think I'm growing up, Pommy. I think I'm maturing.
I can't believe we're December the 5th. We're talking about injuries. I felt like this is like my entire 2022. Bad, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's a concern. But I mean, the best time to have injuries is now. Do you know what I mean? Like the best time. Like I can be lighthearted about injuries today. Do you know what I mean? Like if you ask me this question in 8 months' time when we're in the midst of a finals battle, I'll panic. But do you know what I mean? Sending my love to Walsh, sending my love to Mr. Hewitt. But Hewitt, again, another one who had a few back injuries at Sydney as well. Like, you've got to take into account, it's easy to say it's all Russell, but a lot of these guys who have been injured literally had more injuries than, do you know what I mean? I've had dates with my wife. You know what I mean? Some of them when they came to this club. So it's a big one. And to answer your question, 3 dates this year. I've been stingy on Mrs. Pom, but
wow, mate, come on, you're on that YouTube grind now. Let's do this.
Yeah, basically my wife's my affair now. YouTube is my wife.
Amazing. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring some people in. I'm going to talk a bit about 2023, and really anybody that wants to come in and ask a question and just share what's on their mind and what they're doing, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to bring in, or get the girls in, get the besties in.
Here it goes.
Yeah, look out.
Here we are.
Everyone just check your modem's internet could be broken any minute now. Stand by.
Here we are.
Here they are.
Hello.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Jasmina, Tori, look at you. What's happening?
Tori, you go. You tell them what's happening.
There's not a lot happening. Just enjoying some preseason content, I guess.
Yeah. How good is it to see the boys back at training?
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Jasmina?
Well, I haven't really seen much of who I want to see, so I'm just kind of cruising at the moment.
Okay.
But it's all right. It's okay. We push on, you know?
Yeah. Well, what's on your mind at this point of the year? What's happening in your world at this time of the year, Jazz?
Like footy or just in general?
Yeah, footy. Let's start with the footy. What are you most excited for next year? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm excited for Caleb Marchbank to have a full preseason, but I'm yet to see him actually doing anything, so I'm a bit nervous. Not going to lie to you, I'm quite nervous. The club's not very transparent, let's say, so I'm a bit concerned that I haven't seen him doing much.
They did it with Kerno last year, though, remember? Kerno was
that's
not
true.
shown, and he became All-Australian. Maybe they're just hiding little Caleb because they don't want to scare Tigers too much round one, because he's now a big monster ready to eat the AFL.
Caleb's going to be a late in. He's going to rock the world.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Caleb, I don't think I know anybody that talks about Caleb Marchbank more than you. What's your best guess estimation of how many games he'll play next year? Like, do you trust him to play every game, or do you think we can be managing him?
We've had this conversation, and I got a bit upset about it, but that's fine. So you said 15 games. That was your estimate, right?
I'd be wrapped with 15 games from Caleb Marchbank.
No, I reckon he's going to play 18 to 20 games.
Line up, we're winning a flag, because if he's playing that many games, I think we're such a better team.
Caleb Marchbank.
Yeah, all Australian. I'm telling you, I said it now. I've got a bet with Swoop Luke, actually.
You mean Swoop Abroad?
Swoop Abroad. If Caleb gets AA, he owes me $100.
All right, so. I like it. Tori, what's going on?
No, I get good Harry content, so I'm enjoying my time.
You get Harry Mackay content. You got a new Harry at the club now. It's all. It's
two
all
Harrys, 2 tall Harrys, and I got a Blakens to watch as well. So I'm very happy.
Okay, and a little birdie tells me that you've got some friends coming up to visit, and you might be making an appearance in Melbourne soon. I don't know. Can you confirm?
I do. So little Miss Jasmina and a couple of the other besties are coming up to stay with me over the weekend, and then I'm driving back to Melbourne with them to come to Carlton's open training. on Wednesday, which is exciting.
Wow.
For the
Wow.
short
Wow.
little
Wow.
trip.
We might have to get a little marquee set up for the besties.
Supposedly
No
we'll have-
photos.
Can we shed some light on the besties? What are you going to bring to us in 2023? What can we expect?
Do you want to
We've
go,
got a
Jess?
lot. No, we've actually got a lot lined up, a lot planned. But we're not saying anything at the moment. We need a few
We can say a little
surprises.
bit.
Oh yeah, you go. You tell me how
Okay.
much you want to share, babe.
You better put me on the spot now. No, we're coming in. I don't know. Have we decided on a date? March or February. Our little show. That's all.
All right. Well, it's going to be
Some
fun.
things
It's going to be fun. There's a little army that's starting to form. No, it's cool. In all seriousness, it's cool to see the girls branch together and join into the conversation. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice.
They're popping up. They're popping up.
Yeah, they are popping up.
I think
So,
the best part has definitely been just everyone messaging us and being like, "Oh, you guys are the reason that I want to talk about footy more." Like that's really nice.
Yeah. We've had a few in the past few days pretty much say like, oh, I wouldn't have even joined Carlton Twitter after I saw you two on, speaking of Cripps' Tribunal live stream. We jumped on Blue Broads the first time. So from that, a lot of people joining Carlton Twitter. So some of the girls and stuff, which is nice to hear.
absolutely. Well, I'm excited. What else do you think? Actually, I know, Jasmine, you didn't want me to ask you this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I'm going to ask you both. What do we need as our number one priority for improvement next year? I'm probably going to ask
Caleb
everybody that
Marchbank.
comes on. Caleb Marchbank. Okay. Well, all right. Caleb Marchbank to play 18 games. Tori, where do we need to improve the most?
I think in high pressure situations, if it's a mentality thing or a skill they need to develop, I think that's one of the main things that let us down, and playing out those 4 quarters as much as we can.
Pommy, I haven't asked you. What's the most important thing we need to improve?
Repeatability under pressure, I think. Repeatability. I think we try to get way too creative when the pressure gets on. You see us try 8 different things, nothing works, and then panic stations hit. So to add on to what Tori says, I think definitely that mental application, that ability to, and the only way you get in that is by being in these situations. We said it last year. These boys are serial losers, specialists in failure. And then last year, suddenly they were winning. And that was a new position. I mean, being 8-2 at the bye, usually these guys are 2-8. They must have thought they'd gone into a parallel universe. So, like, usually people are talking about sacking the coach, and 8-2 people were talking about winning a flag. So the mindset behind that has to be it. So hopefully they're better for it, and we all swoop a beating, don't we? Because, I mean, it's December the 5th, and he's still talking about a 1-point win. You know what I mean? 4 months ago. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Swoop abroad. Sorry, I can't call him Swooper Luke anymore.
Swoop abroad. It's cute. It's cute. You can't beat him. Join him. Ladies, any last thoughts before we let you go?
Just watch out for the besties because we've got a lot planned. And I know a lot of you are probably like, oh, I don't know if I want to give these girls time. Give us time. Just trust me. You'll want to tune in. Trust the process.
All right.
Bolton told me that once.
Bolton also said that.
Be careful. Tori
No.
used the phrase, we're coming, which is a dangerous phrase with Carlton because we use that about 8 times. And you've just used the Bolton catchphrase. Jesus.
No, what's the other one? Guys, something's cooking.
They know what we're cooking. Yeah, we're coming to take over. Look, listen, if you the slogans are a very tricky thing to be going with, but no, we look forward to having you join the family, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Love
should be good.
All right, ladies, we're going to love you and leave you. Thanks for joining.
Have a good night.
Slay the
Bye.
day.
Slay the day. Absolutely.
Oh, we didn't use it.
We didn't
We
use
didn't
it.
use it.
No, I'm going to cop a bit for that. Joseph Adamo, good to see this face here.
Jeez. It's been a while. What's going on, boys?
Mate.
Hey, up.
Oh, you know,
How are we?
just out here with our refreshed mentality again.
For the 8th year in a row, isn't it? We've been hearing about this.
Yeah.
No, it's good. You know what? I was saying the other day for the first time, we say it every year, and we do, because we just like, I don't know, hurting ourselves and like hanging on to hope. But I think going into next year, it's the first time I've felt for a long time that I'm actually confident we're going to do something. I don't think, tell me one of you two can see us fucking this up at this point, please. Convince me otherwise.
Well, not being pessimistic, but the only thing I was thinking about the other day was there's one more extra game added to the season. So, more of an opportunity. But I don't think there's ever been a team, correct me if I'm wrong, that has gotten that close to playing finals football and not playing finals football. So naturally, it's just, I'm past the point of like manifesting. It's like, just fucking get serious, get the job done. Like, honestly, like it's just time to get serious for everyone. And the hard thing as well is like, what if we start, like, I would hope that we start well again. 8-2 would be great. How can we really be at peace until we clinch a spot late in the year?
I mean, at 8-2, you would have thought we'd clinched it, right? Jesus. Like, I don't know. It's so, like, I try not to reflect on this year too much because we've done enough of it on the podcast and on the show, and like enough has been said. Like, we absolutely bottled it. We could not have bottled it anymore. But to your point, what team has come that close to making finals and not made it the year after? Like, if it happens to us, it's just never ever supposed to happen. That's where my head's at. If it doesn't happen next year, it's never supposed to happen. Like, honestly, it would just be ridiculous at this point. It'd be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm honestly at that stage and I'm excited because I feel like this. I actually don't care for next year at all. I have no feelings at all. I have no feelings of excitement. Don't have any expectation. I just have a feeling they're going to get it done. So I don't have to get up and about. Feels a little bit like when Rangers won the league. There was a feeling that it was just inevitable. You weren't excited because they'd done so much talking and they'd proved enough to you that if they fucked it up, well, we might as well close the shop and just go and watch something else. What's netball doing this year? So I feel like that. I genuinely am so calm. I've watched round 23 numerous times in the last couple of weeks. I've really enjoyed watching it because it's literally, for me, that's what I'm hoping the players are doing, thinking that is how close we came. And then I go back and watch that round 10 game and see how glittering we were and how classy we were. And I'm like, somewhere between the two is sustainability. Yeah. And if that can be our sustainability, we can win this fucking thing. Why can't we? So I feel really at ease. I don't have any reservations. I don't have any excitement. I just ready for round one.
I look forward to seeing you after we lose to North Melbourne by 40 points, round 8. How calm you are.
That's likely going to be the case. It'll likely be the case. But you're right. That's probably the best way to put it, Pom, is like, I don't have, like, I remember this time last year, new coaching panel, and like it was like refreshed, and we're like, let's just get to round 1 and win round 1. It's like, I'm not even looking to what the result's going to be in round 1 now. It's kind of like, that should be a foregone conclusion. We rock up, we win, and we move on. Like, it's not, there's no excitement. It's not, you're not going to get Joe after a practice match against Melbourne telling everyone that we're going to win the flag. Like, you're not going to get that next year. He's as calm as possible, knowing that we're going to do something. We will do something. That's not going to happen again. Don't laugh. It's not happening again. There's no lead being lost. This is just calm all year.
I hope. I really do. I mean, I talk a lot about living in the moment and enjoy the wins when you have them, and life's too short to think too far into the future, but I don't know if I can do that next year. Maybe I will be living in the moment, but I can just see, like, I won't really jump on. I will jump on board, but I won't be really fully excited until we've won that 13th or 14th game that we need to win. I'm not sure what it's going to be now that there's an extra game to play in the season, but until we're there, we're not there. That's how I'm.
That's what I'll ask, right? So it's a longer season. All the boys are already back essentially preseason training, which is the earliest I think I've ever seen this group get back to preseason training, which is fantastic. But one of the concerns was our fatigue, obviously in the back end of the year last year. So you couple the earlier preseason with a week longer year already. That's the only doubt that I've got is, well, how well are we going to manage ourselves across not 20, well, if you include the bye, 24 weeks now leading into finals, plus this extra 4 weeks that they're doing preseason. Like, I don't know. I just hope, and I'll back in a high performance, as critical as I've been at times and as critical as I am right now of that department, because I think they got one last chance to get this right. But that there is the only thing in the back of my mind going, have we learned from what you said, Pom? Sustainability in playing list, sustainability in playing styles, so it's like sustainability in just in conserving your energy for that back half of the year.
Like for me, I think I don't know how much the club has to prove to people that anything after 2021 didn't happen. Like that's how my mindset has got in. Before that didn't happen, and I even include the flags. Just my history now is 2021. We've got a new establishment, and there's little things that I look at. The accountability at the end of the year from Vossi, that it was a disappointment, and we finally got that, and he did it to the members in public at the event and said it wasn't good enough and we had to get better at getting better and things like that. That's new Carlton. We don't usually get that. Usually at the BNF, we get a sob story. Then I look at the draft period, and from someone who's covered the draft extensively, that was laden with old Carlton panic. There was loads of opportunities. Philippou sliding. Sauce would have sold his left arm to jump the ladder. There was loads of sliders. And you saw how Austin operated. He had his targets. Bang, bang, bang. See you later. No first rounder being used as well. That's a huge dub with next year's draft. So for me, to answer your question, I like the fact that everyone seems to have returned to training early as well in the top 8, which I think is really key. That's usually my question. Why is the top 8 at training and Carlton are still in Bali? Like, I remember last year Melbourne were there really early and Carlton was still in Bali. And I'm like, they've won a flag. Like, they're back. What are they doing? So I like that. I think they'll manage it well. I think they have to. I've got a sneaky feeling that even though we are critical of the list, the management, Port Adelaide were phenomenal with their fitness, and that was what they hang their hat on. And speaking with the pair this week, he was telling me how instrumental Vossi was and how much they've noticed since he's gone and how loved he was at Port by the fan base. So I don't think Vossi's stupid. I think he will be handling that management and putting a feeler on it. And I've got a feeling, just a sneaky feeling, that this list, like I'm with you. I think you nailed it, Joe. If it doesn't happen this year, I actually do think it's never happening. I think it's another rebuild. It's going to be a constant false dawn. We're always going to be just on the fringe of the 8.
We don't make finals this year. That's it. I'm done. Fuck.
But this is the thing, right? So this is where we'll all be at. But you can't. For me, at that point, you're not looking at the coach. You can't. It's got to be the list because it doesn't make sense. How many coaches do you have to go through with this list? How many coaches do you have to go through before we go, you know what? These players just are not good enough. They're not there. They're not there.
Mate, if that happens, we have to have a review on the entire thing. Do you know what I mean? Like honestly, like I'm going to start agreeing with Faz that maybe the ground is fucked. Like it has to be. But I agree with you because I think the rebuild, if I'm honest, I think has been horrendous. I think Carlton, I think got rid of Bolton too late. Then I also say that Bolton was a foolish decision. It should have been someone like Voss. And then I think Teague was to appease the fans and some kind of sentimentality. And I look at the change and I want to use sentiment. You know, I'm antichrist of sentiment. I hate sentiment. But I look at this establishment and they are anti-sentiment. They don't care. Voss dropped Sauce. No one would have ever dared drop Sauce when Carlton were in a bad run. And you remember, that was a bad run for us. He dropped Sauce. Okay, Sauce played because of injury, but he made that decision. No coach would have done that. You look at Nick Austin. Nick Austin doesn't care about Liam Stocker. Got rid of him as quickly as possible. For me, this is the new Carlton, which I've been saying for like 2 years on this show. Old Carlton was ruthless, saw what it wanted, took what it wanted. You're seeing ruthlessness now in 2022. Do you know what I mean? A polite ruthlessness. So I'm with you. This is the year. And I'm not going to say we're making finals because to me, it's inevitable. I don't need to pump it up. But legit, if they don't make it, this is where we have a rebuild and we have a rebuild. And my message to the club would be sack everyone that has ever set foot in Icon Park since 1970. I don't want anyone in the next generation from 1970 before. It has to be new people, new faces, scrap the book, get rid of the museum and start focusing on a proper modern day Carlton. But I believe that you're seeing a modern day ruthlessness in a polite way. And when this interview gets released with Per, he goes into detail about Vossi. Vossi's probably went up in my estimations how a Port fan talked about him, about his influence outside with the fans, with the players, with the training and all the things they've noticed in 1 year since he's left because he's very structured. I'm excited about that. So that's why I fully believe in my heart of hearts. I'm not going to sit here and say we're winning a flag. I'm just going to say, sit back, enjoy the ride, grab a beer. It's going to be fucking quality. That's all I'll say on it.
I can already say end of season on TikTok or on Reels or something, that quote
Someone's
saying it's inevitable. It's just inevitable. And then the sad violin music over the top of us losing in round 23 again after the siren or some shit to kick us out of finals. Oh, God.
Just my face scan on that guy.
Just for one season, I don't want to be a meme. Just one season. I don't want to be a meme, honestly. Mate, what happens in your off season? What do the Blues Brothers do? Almost Blues Brothers do in the off season?
I don't know where either of them are, to be honest. I can't find them. They've disappeared. I don't know where the other two are. No, for me, like you, mate, I'm about to jet off overseas. So for a nice little break over just after Christmas for about a month and a half. So
wow,
it's gonna be good. First time in a few years. How was it? Just while we're here.
It was everything. It was everything. It was everything. It was the best of me, the worst of me, all in 24 days. It was the whole lot.
The best.
Best. Where are you going?
That'll be it. And then I'm off to South America for a mate's wedding. So it'll be good. We'll leave it at that.
You look the part, mate. You look the part. Ready to go.
Very good. We'll be back. Podcast will be back probably when I get back, maybe like late Feb. We're not sure yet, but you'll see more of these next year, and we'll reveal a little bit more of that in the next few weeks, the next few months. So
more to be revealed, ladies and gents. Love it.
It.
Joe, pleasure, mate. We'll chat soon.
Take care, lads.
See you, mate.
Much love, mate.
We've got Ari, Beachy, and Kurt. Let's do this. Ari Stamatakos, Mr. Football.
Mate, there you go. Good.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Fucking very sleep deprived. Deprived, but we're battling through. It's all right. Getting through it. I realized that today I was like, we've got like 7 match days left or something. I'm like, fuck, this has flown by. But no, it's good. It's good.
Who is your tip to win the World Cup?
England.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I'm on top on that, but I've had them since February. I think I did, so can't go back on my word now. But yeah, it's good. I think the more they win, the more I'm getting. I want to be right. I love being right, so that's the main thing.
You don't say.
Yeah, no.
What thoughts have you had about Carlton? I mean, you've been fully ingrained in the round ball. So, like, have you had any thoughts about Carlton? What's on your mind at this point?
Not really until today. Until I started seeing all the photos and stuff, and started seeing the talk about it. I really hadn't thought about it. I'm still traumatized. I'm in a period of mourning still. I don't think that period will end until we beat Collingwood again. I think that's probably what it's going to be. But no, I just feel this. I'm not going to say arrogance, but I just feel like Pom said, I just feel calm. Like I just feel calm that it's just going to happen. Like it has to happen because I don't want to live in a world where it doesn't happen. So I'm not even going to think about that. It's just going to happen. That's all it is.
You sound like me.
Yeah, well, I've got that blind optimism. I've had it now. I've been a pessimist for too long. I have to turn into an optimist some stage.
Yeah, I think I'm going the other way. Like I'm done with them.
Done.
They can get stuffed
Right.
until they make
I
it.
thought you were refreshed from your holiday. It's just
I am
turned
refreshed,
into
and I've refreshed, and I've come to my senses. There's just going to be no more
You've seen the
fluff.
light.
Not from me. I've seen the light. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for too long, and there'll be no more fluff from me until we're 5-0 and I'm declaring it's time.
Yeah, and then round 1 preview, we're winning the flag.
Yeah,
Lids off.
pretty much. So what's our number one thing we need to fix? I mean, there's a lot, but what's the number one thing in your mind that we need to improve on for next year?
A lot of people, and I think the main thing is like high pressure scenarios, but I go the other way. I go when the opportunity is there, you need to take it. And what I mean by that is foot on throat. When it's 35 points, 40 points halfway through the third quarter, we're not letting it slip down to a 10-point win, a 12-point win. We're putting the foot on the throat. We're making it a 10-goal, 11-goal, 12-goal win. That separates the good teams from the great teams. Teams who are able to not even allow the margin to get within 4 goals is to just kill the game dead, buried, and then just relax, coast for the final 15 minutes when you're already 80 points up. That's the main thing, because we saw it against Port, saw it against Hawthorn. They were the two main games that really, in my opinion, they're the games that cost us finals, not the games at the back end of the year. Because you just, if you just win those games without having to go on with like the last minute of the game and be stressed and get it done by under a goal. If we just hold on to that 45-point lead in both games, we're playing finals. And what that does for the confidence of the team, just regardless in terms of being able to have confidence in yourself that you can hold on to that lead, that is the main thing. Being able to just hold on to the lead and then go on with it and then just to demolish teams.
I think the Hawthorn game is a great point. If you watch... I happened to turn on TV the other day. I was watching Geelong Brisbane, when they blew them away in the prelim. Absolutely smoked them out of nowhere. And that first half is very Carlton versus Hawthorn. Geelong are just on another level, another transient plane. And then they come out in the third quarter and they kick the first 3, I think it is. And you see Brisbane, they put the cue in the rack. They're in Bali. They're like, right, 60 points, it's too big a job. I agree. I think there's the mental fortitude in tough games, but this side also needs to develop that edge to become champions, and that is when your prey is bleeding, finish them off. Don't give them hope of surviving, kill them. And you look at that Hawthorn game, there was chances to put that game to bed. You look at the Collingwood game, even with that injury, there was chances that Carlton had to kill that game off and not keep it tight when they were in ascendancy. And that's probably... back to what I said earlier, the hardest skill for Carlton. 8-2 at the bye. Usually they're 2-8. Different mindset. People are talking about you doing well. Usually Cripps is opening the paper and seeing, is he a good captain? Should he be the captain? Carlton sacking his boss again. So he's got to get that mindset where Carlton are winners. And that's going to be a real interesting thing. I'll listen to something about Federer, talk about the young players. And Federer was saying that when he beat Sampras, something switched in his head that he could beat anyone. And he felt he had to earn the respect by cleaning players' clocks when they weren't playing well and taking the opportunity. That's something these boys need to learn. I agree with you, Ari. I want to see against North Melbourne 80-point, 90-point demolition jobs, not 10, 20 points and it was comfortable. I want to see the boys take the hearts out of teams. And I think when we start to see that, that's when these boys are the real deal, that ruthless edge. Because Vossi's Port used to do that, didn't they? Like Port used to be brilliant at that. When they hurt you, they started to beat up on you. They did it to us a few times.
Did they ever? 19 straight goals. How could I forget?
There you go. I think that comes down to something that I was thinking about, and that's what this group is motivated by. And I think this may come because of the loser, I wouldn't say loser mentality, but the loser-like experience that we've had for the past 2 decades, right? And you're either motivated by fear or by the carrot dangling in front of you, right? And to me, it's clear to see that this group is motivated by the fear and the thought of losing. That's what they're motivated by. So when they get into those comfortable positions, being 45, 50 points up, they're like, all right, we're not going to lose now. So what's the point of going on with it? When they're 8-2, they don't put the foot on the throttle and make it 10-2, 11-2, 12-2. They're like, oh yeah, we'll probably get into finals. Like, we'll be right. Like, we can lose a couple of games, not that big a deal. We should be fine. Like, the aura of comfortability within this squad, without having the fact that this squad can be so comfortable without having the credit in the bank to be comfortable. Like we're not a Hawthorn back-to-back premiership team. We're not a Brisbane 3-peat team where we can be 4 goals up with 10 minutes to go in the last quarter and be like, yeah, right, we're just going to put the foot on the throat and not put the foot on the throat, but we can just sit comfortable and know that we're going to win this game because we're so good, right? We don't have that type of credit in the bank. So I think that's also translated into the win-loss that was post-bye. It was 8-2, obviously we lose to Collingwood, and then the bye happens. And then it's like, all right, we should be fine. Like, we'll be right. If we win, we'll lose. All right, we'll win, then we'll lose. Like, there's no willingness to go that extra 5% and to put teams away, and also to put the season away when it's there for the taking. We just can't manage to do it. Hopefully that comes with a little bit of maturity and a little bit of age, but you'd like to think so, wouldn't you?
In order to find yourself, Ari, sometimes you've got to lose yourself. And I think that's what happened in 2022. I think what you just said, yeah, there was almost this feeling of we can't not play finals now. And as soon as you start, this is, something in life. As soon as you start thinking you are top shit and you are top G and you are top dog, that is the moment where everything starts crumbling. As soon as you lose that hunger, that is the moment when something else comes and overtakes. So it's a bit about maturity.
Yeah. Well, there's that phrase in the round ball, you're most vulnerable when you've just scored.
Yep.
It translates the same. When you're on that high, you're the most vulnerable to be crashed down to even a lower low than what you could even think about.
Ari, I mean, you've quoted Bill Shankly there, and I always think a great quote is from Fergie's book. And he talks and builds on that about his philosophy, and he quotes Bill Shankly, the vulnerability. I always think Fergie reworded it in a beautiful way and said that the great teams are 5 minutes away from halftime, 1-0 up, and the great teams are looking for 2. Straight away looking for 2. That's their focus. He was like, good teams are looking to see the game out, and he was like, the bad teams celebrate that they're 1-0 up. And he was like, that's how he differentiates between the levels of competition. And he's talking about Barcelona under Pep, how Pep's needs the second, strike while the iron's hot. And that was his philosophy. And I agree with you. I think that's something that, I think it's maturity, and it's mental maturity. And you've got to remember that Carlton are the most mentally immature side, because history says, I know people in the comments are having pot about me not liking history. Look at Manchester United. Look at top teams who are doing shit at the moment. They tell you about what they have won, but sport is 5-year cycles. Do you know what I mean? You can win 500 titles. If you haven't done it last year, you're a loser. So I agree with you, Ari. These boys have got to look at history recently. This is a new thing to them. They're never favourites. They never win games. And I'd love to hear your guys and the crowd's reaction to this. Do you think we went win-loss because the mindset in the first 10 games seemed to be Voss and impact the game, impact the AFL. But then suddenly this fear of don't lose. And it kind of felt like we were Denmark, Ari, to use soccer. We played like Denmark in the second half. Don't lose. It was a very Poland football. Don't lose, don't concede. We might sneak a goal. Whereas in the first half of the season, we felt like France. We were like, you know what, we'll score. Doesn't matter. We can counter them. We're better. We're more direct. That's where Carlton need to go to that friends mentality of, doesn't matter if you play Brazil or Poland, keep your mantra, keep your mentality. Do you feel like we switched focuses and they became them nerves of don't lose, don't lose, don't lose?
I think it is that, but I also think it came through a little bit of momentum as well, because the first 10 rounds, 8-2, and it's the start of the season, new manager bounce, if to use a football term, like this whole adrenaline rush behind the team, and you get off to this unbelievable start, and then almost the kind of the bang bang of losing to Collingwood, and then the bye straight away after that kind of halted all momentum, and it kind of was a massive adrenaline dump, and really got into. I'll tell you what it was. It made when you're not mature as in sport, when you're not a mature player, when you're on a mature team, as our team is, the more you think about things, the worse it is. The more you think about things, and the less you play off just knowing what to do in terms of instinct and adrenaline. That's when you start to hurt yourself, and that's when you start to get into situations where you don't normally get into. How many times, if you use the Sydney game, for example, that second quarter was just go, go, go. Like, if you were to literally just adrenaline football, if you were to describe adrenaline football, that second quarter against Sydney was a microcosm of the first 10 rounds. Really, it was this hot adrenaline of no one really knew what it was, but it was working. And then you lose to Collingwood in heartbreaking fashion as well. And then the bye, and then it's like, bang. You just need to stop, think about it, and then it's that, oh, okay, we're nearly there. And then it goes to that motivation factor of, okay, now we can't lose. Let's just make sure we don't lose. And then that just creates this horrendous cycle, which we just kept going, win-loss, and it was our downfall eventually.
Do you think there's, and Terry, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, particularly the last 5 games, you could actually pinpoint, couldn't you, the mentality change, where it almost felt like the players had that moment, and it felt like, in some cases, I don't want to pick on players, but I'll pick on good players. I'll pick on Cripper. There was times where you could see it was almost like the seeds of the past were catching up with him as teams got 2 goals within us. You could see he's like, I've been here before, and kicks got a little bit harder. People weren't kicking through the ball. You saw Mackay do it and Kerno. Suddenly they didn't kick through their action. The pressure started to get up to them. What would you guys say to them? If you guys were the coach, there's a quarter to go, we've conceded a 30-point lead. What would be the one focus you would tell these boys to go out there and find that moment of genius?
Well, it's, first of all, I don't know. We'll start there. I'm a believer that you need to constantly put yourself through these situations in order to get there. I'm not a believer in the more you fail, the more likely you are to fail. I'm a believer in the more courage you have to continue to fail, the more likely you are to succeed. I think once we got to that pointy end of the season, it was the first time this group in this rebuild had ever really been that close to finals. Now, I know technically in 2021, I think we lost to, there was still a mathematical chance. I know in 2020, there was still a mathematical chance, but we were really behind the 8 ball. We really were. We were chasing tail. We started slow in both of those 2 seasons. I truly think 2022 was the first year of genuinely being there, and I just think they didn't know how to handle it. And I think at this point, my hope is that what happened in 2022 doesn't scar them, because I know that there's those conversations around grand final teams, for example, that lose, by those big margins. You look at the Crows, you look at the Giants, they both suffered mental blocks the year after, and players who played in those teams have spoken about that in podcasts ever since. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case with us. I think we've got too much to play for that to really affect them. And at this point, I'm not sure how much we should be talking about 2022 in order to show that we have accepted it and we've moved on from it, or should we be ignoring it? I don't know what the balance is. So for me, it's about put yourself in that situation again and again. Just keep getting there, and you hope that they go a step further each time. One more thing. Don't fucking play on when you have a mark inside 50. That's what I'd be saying.
Thought it was that simple.
Yeah, there you go. But I think another thing that springs to mind when that question's posed, and I remember thinking this in the Gold Coast game, our first loss. It's when you're under pressure and when things aren't going your way. Like if you go back to the Sydney second quarter in particular. Like that is the period of football which I keep referencing it because it was like 30 minutes of magical football. Like it was infallible football. It was unbelievable, right? In that second quarter, everything went our way, it seemed. Every bounce, every mark, the ball was going over the opposition's player by that much. Like everything went our way, right? And you make your own luck, of course. But when you look at that Gold Coast game, it was the exact opposite. And it's when that happens, what do you do? Because then obviously the pressure starts mounting up. Obviously, we went into that game as favourites. We should have won that game if we're looking at it like objectively. What are you going to do? What is your reaction to that? And naturally, for teams who aren't as mature as what the elite sides are, like we weren't, it's going back to what you know. And what we knew at that stage wasn't the Michael Voss way of playing football. It was a David Teague way of playing football. Because we'd only been under Voss for a couple of months, whereas this team had 2 years of David Teague football under their belt. That was what was ingrained in them. That is what was subconscious to them at that stage. And even before then, it was a Brent Bolton way of playing football. So that's why now I have a little bit more faith that when things don't go our way, when the opposition start to maybe are on the verge of an upset against us, like a North or like an Adelaide or an Essendon or whatever, we're going to revert. The method of football and the way that we play is the Michael Voss way of playing football, not the David T way of playing football, which inherently is just going to put us in a much better position.
I think you both nailed it, and you share my sentiments. And I think Bugs Bell nailed it. And the point I was trying to get to, which you both helped me, is I think, like what Terry said, you're seeing a rebirth. I don't think the rebuild has happened until 2021, like I said with Joe, because I think we were just basically digging up daisies. We were just going nowhere fast, and it was selling a dream. And that's why I'm trying to approach this preseason a bit differently with the fans doing what I'm doing. I'm not getting my willy out and swinging it round, getting excited, because I think we need to be practical. And I agree with you. I can't tell you how hard it is to win shit. Do you know what I mean? And win at life. And I know it's funny, and I made a joke because I always do.
You broke, Terry. You broke it. You broke it.
Oh, fucking hell,
remember, I can't get this through to your head. And you've seen it, Ari, in soccer. Some teams are specialists in failure out there. You remember Mourinho saying that about Arsenal? And he was right. They were specialists in failure at the time. They just got used to losing. Where Chelsea, they came in, they won, and they became infectious. You've seen it with Australia this year. Once they won that game, that second game, you wouldn't have believed they'd get to the last 16 with the way they folded against France. France never got out of gear too. Do you know what I mean? So belief does a lot of things. And I agree with you, right? They've got to put themselves in this position. And I've spoke to a few players since. The mindset for them was totally different round 16 to round 5 because they didn't win. And suddenly these wins now, people were talking about finals. And Carlton haven't been talked about in a finals side since the early noughties. Do you know what I mean? So this was a new thing. And I reckon it's a lot easier to play. It's a lot easier. Just think of yourselves as kids. How easy is it to perform at school when no one expects you to do well, but you know you are? But when the teacher suddenly expects an A from you, that A becomes harder. So I agree with both of you. And I think they should look at round 23. And I like the fact Voss is bringing it up now, that is going to kill them, and used it as motivation because they were woeful that second half of the year. They were shite. Let's be honest. Let's not mince the words. They were cowardly the way they played football. I think you nailed it, Ari. They were cowards to play Voss ball, and they reverted back to the safety blanket of Teague. Do you know what I mean? Of indecision, of rushing, and not being clear and concise. And I think rushing says something. They weren't focused on the task at hand. They played to heart. They didn't play to plan. So I'd be saying to them, stick to the plan and believe in the plan. And if we die by the plan, we fix the plan. But focus on that. And I think they'll be a lot better for it. And I'm not going to get into the willy waving contest. I'm just going to say this to all the fans. Back them in, right? Support them and be fucking surprised because I'm telling you, you'll be very shocked where these boys finish come that 23rd game next year.
Well said. Very well said.
I'm glad that
you literally you broke me.
the perfect one-liner. The perfect one-liner.
Gosh.
I have my moments.
You do. You do. Ari, been a pleasure as always, mate. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you guys.
See you, mate. Kurt,
Oh, what's going on, guys?
mate, long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. I think the last time I spoke to you was the Hawthorn game. It's
I do
been a
remember
while.
that. It was a good
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, very good day. I'm looking forward to for next season. To be honest,
What's on your mind with the club at this point in time?
The ingredients are all there. It's as simple as that. I saw. I was looking at a snippet of Nick Austin when he was doing the draft, and I was just watching him, and I said, "Yeah, this guy knows what he wants. He knows what he wants." And I think the club is in the footy department anyway is all aligned. I don't see any reason to worry at all for next season, at all. And this is the first time for a long time, even during the early tens when Juddy and Carazzo and all that were playing. I'm optimistic. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid next season because this is the first time ever. I reckon a lot of people need to actually believe in this club and where it's going to go for 2023, because I reckon there's going to be special things that are going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about this off-season, it's the first one in a while for us where it's just pure stability. There's not a lot of major changes to the top level, which obviously trickle down to the rest. Even the playing group, there aren't major changes. We haven't lost anyone of note. I'm trying to think. Like last year, obviously I'm not worried about any players that we've lost at all. Like not one bit. And last year was about Voss's new game plan. They spoke to us about being patient and what it looks like in round 1 won't be what it looks like in round 10, etc., etc. If anything, we probably thought we would start off a little slow and then get better as the season went on. It wasn't to be the case, but there is stability. Voss gets his second full preseason with the group. They know what to expect now. There's a bit of familiarity, and hopefully with the familiarity, the habits get ingrained. So that way, when we get into the pressure situations, what they revert to in their subconscious is the Voss way, as we just said.
Exactly. And honestly, like I know a lot of people wanted the Doggies to lose, and last season in the final round. But honestly, I wanted them to win. I wanted us to earn that spot in the final. I don't want any other. We had to earn it. Otherwise, if we go into next season, then it's up. Like we'd be going in. I'm thinking, be walking into the party. But I'm confident. I'm dead set. You know what I don't miss is we don't have any platitudes. We're not saying the club is not espousing platitudes at all. At all. Nothing of that fucking nonsense whatsoever. And like, I watch multiple sports, and like, if you realize the one common theme that every shit club has is that they espouse platitudes every single time to friggin' endear the fans, or they get get the fans off the boards back, what have you. We don't have any of that this year. Like throughout this whole off season, it's all about working on next season, preparing this and that. There's no bullshit. So
Mate,
I'm that's confident.
As a Man United fan, I can guarantee the only time that you ever see Alex Ferguson is when we've lost. They bring him back to make everyone happy and wheel him out and go, look, Fergie's here. We all loved it. Kurt, you touched on something there, and I want to focus on it because I think you've nailed it. When you listen to Austin, and I listened to Harry Mackay today, and there's two things that stood out. One, with Austin, it was all planned. He wasn't flustered. He saw it, saw Binns had slipped, went and got Cohen, got that trade done, and then was like, brilliant, Binns is here. We've got everyone we planned to get. Picked up his folder, fucked off. And it felt like it was planned. There was no reaction. He was like, this is good. Let's move. And Harry really impressed me, because if you listen to Harry speak today in front of the media versus that disaster where he was like, yeah, we're not really bothered by finals. You suddenly saw a maturity from him. Like, it's almost like he's grown and bought in. So I agree, Kurt. These little things we sometimes get drip-fed bollocks usually at this stage. It actually feels like there's a plan and there's a bit of seriousness going on at the football club.
Like, look, obviously, I'm wearing a Storm jersey. I've supported the Storm for 20 years. And, like, from what I've seen from Nick Austin, I sense a lot of, you should know him, Pommy, is Frank Pelosi.
Yeah.
He's the head honcho of the footy department in the Storm. And he knows what he wants. Whether, like you said, I remember what you were talking about, talking towards the Geelong supporter, how, like, Geelong supporters don't really care about the off seasons. I'm for the first time in years, I'm like that with Carlton. I'm like, I'll watch what is on this channel, and that's it. I'm not constantly looking through social media. Who'll be picking up, whether or not we've picked up Jamie Oliver or what have you. I think a lot of us just need to relax. By round one, I think we got it. The ingredients are there. Everything's aligned. And now it's up to the team itself to actually, take the opportunity.
No,
and I also, one thing I don't think, despite a lot of injuries throughout the season, I think what we have over a lot of AFL clubs don't have yet is the one-man up system. If we implement that, we're dangerous. If we continue to build that up, that's the team rugby league teams during State of Origin. The good teams have a good one-man up system because they need to carry on through that Origin period because all their star players all playing Origin. We don't have an Origin, so if one, let's just say, Rita misses 2 weeks for we should be all good. It's
About
crazy. The depth. We got the depth. We got every Like I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but
no, you're right.
No, mate, I agree. I think last year the injuries might be a blessing because you found Boyd, you found Lewis Young. Lewis Young was in no one's best 22 round one.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So these guys performed. So they probably gives us depth because Boyd, we know he can play now. I'm with you. I think maybe last year is a blessing because players had to play very short notice, new roles, and hopefully, touch wood, this year, the best 22 stay fit, which means that the next best 22 is itching and ready to pounce should someone get injured. So, no, mate, I'm with you. I'm cruisy. I can't wait for round one. Bounce a fucking
even though reserves are doing well, we got nothing to worry about. Drink the Kool-Aid. Drink the fucking Kool-Aid, brothers.
I'm gonna hold off on the Kool-Aid, Kurt, but I promise
come on, Terry. I remember when I was on the Swoop Luke podcast, I was telling you, stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Now you're not drinking the Kool-Aid. I haven't touched the Kool-Aid for like over 20 years at Carlton. Now I'm drinking the Kool-Aid like it's freaking, like I'm a dehydrated at a man in the Sahara Desert. You got to drink it, Terry. It's coming. It's coming.
Give me until the bye, and then I'll reconsider.
Okay. You better scale up. You better scale a freaking court.
Don't worry, I'll stock up. I'll have Kool-Aid ready to go. I just won't be
the top shelf stuff, mate.
All right.
Top shelf. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Yeah. All right. Take it easy, bro. See ya.
Love it.
He's quality.
He's quality. He is very much quality. Beachy.
I'd like to follow that. Jesus. That's going to be interesting.
You've got two options. You either build us up or you pull us down. It's your call.
Where are you going to go, Beachy? What are you going to do with us, mate?
No. I'll stick with the rice. Stick with the rice because we need it. We need this. We need this stuff, mate. Because it's been far too long. Far too long.
Have you started focusing on footy yet? Did you ever stop focusing on footy? And if so, what's on your mind?
Well, it's hard not to keep your eye off footy, to be honest, because once the boys start training, you're looking at, right, who's there, who's doing what, and what are they doing to help not only better themselves, but better the people around them, whether that's running laps, whether that's skills, whether it's whatever you want them to work on. You need to be improving everyone, and that includes the people that may not be in your best 22.
It's true. I haven't asked anyone yet tonight. I'm going to start with you. Who are you looking at as a couple of our potential breakout players that take that real next step? And I know it's a team game and all of that, but every year there's always 1, 2, or 3 players that really make that leap. Who are the ones that you've got your eye on at this early point in the preseason?
Well, I feel Holland and Cowan will be the ones to keep an eye on, obviously. But the ones that are already sort of established, like not like your Crippses, not like your Walshes or whatever. But you mentioned Boyd. You mentioned Jordan Boyd. And I actually think after what I saw from him when he played in a few games, I thought he was actually one to keep an eye on because he actually has a pretty good foot that he uses. And if he hits his target consistently, he might actually find his way breaking into the side more regularly.
I can attest as well the way at the sponsors event he avoided the attentions of a recent divorcee who was very drunk. He's got focus. I'll give him that as Boydie, if nothing else. No, I agree with you. I think he's a great one. You know, the guy that I'm really looking forward to, who I think he's going to kill it. And I know Bugs Bell will maybe come back and love me again when I say this. Jesse Motlop. I've got a feeling that Motlop, we're crying out for another source of goals. And I saw enough in them last 3 games, particularly, that makes me feel like he's primed, that these little games have done him good. And I just think one good little preseason from him. And I reckon there's a real live wire there from round 1. And I reckon he'll relish playing an aging Richmond backline. I can see him kicking 4 or 5, you know, having I know I said I wouldn't make big calls and start getting excited, but
here we go.
Kurt got me excited. I've got a feeling, and I had a dream the other night, that Motlop tore apart Richmond. You know, it was a small forward, finally killed them, not toes. What they usually do to us, one of us did it. Just got a feeling that Motlop, he's going to come out of the season. And I've been watching him on Insta. He's been training all the postseason. I've just got a feeling he's going to be the boy. Jesse Motlop, get around it. Our Western Australian sensation.
I like it. Mine is Zach Williams. That's my guy.
Oh, he will.
Yep. That's my guy. That's my guy.
Good surname.
He does have a good surname. From what I spoke about with him at the end of last year, that was the initial, just the way he carried himself. I had a really good conversation with him. It was really refreshing. And then also now to see back at training, the way he looks, and also the fact that he hasn't missed a session thus far. I know it's December. There's a lot of preseason to go. But like, surely at some point, the law of averages has to like come into play. Like he's not a bad player. Yes, he's a highly paid player. And yes, we haven't really seen the best of him as of yet at Carlton and maybe in his career. I refuse to believe that he's played his best football in his career. I just refuse. I just don't think that's possible. And I think 2023 will be the year Zach Williams gets us all excited, and we're starting to really relish having him at the club.
It's funny you say that, because I watched that round 23 game, like I said earlier,
mate.
And I was saying to even my wife, who loves taking the piss at Carlton at every opportunity she can get, she did say, she was like, "Oh, he's actually really good, isn't he, Zach?" Because you see the skill level in Zach Williams. Do you know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. If he can stay fit, I'd love to ask Beachy, you and the chat, a question. I think this is a good question. If we do this round 23 preview, who do you think is going to be a surprise? Like we had Cottrell probably this year and Lewis Young. who is going to be the surprise best member of the 22? That's probably not in the 22 now. Who do you expect round 23 as stonewalled and become a best 22 player?
I'm going to go with Lockie Cowan. I think he will. I think he'll find his way in early, and then he won't look back.
Who's he sacking?
I knew that was coming. I fear it could be McGovern.
Ooh.
I'm not 100% sure on this, but yeah, if McGovern can't get his body right now, then is he ever going to get his body right?
Good call.
I've got one. I've
Go
got
on.
one. Oh,
don't do it to wind me up because you've got a cheeky grin.
No. If this guy was probably, I don't know if you view him. I think most people view this guy as a guy who's no longer in our best 22 because they're looking at Durden and Motlop. I think Matt Owies will stay in the 22. I think he's a really underrated player. I think he's a really, really astute professional in the way that he prepares himself for the game. And I think a lot of his good form early in the season was a big part of our clean inside 50 entries. And I think Matt Owies is going to keep himself in the 22.
No, I like that. I like that.
I don't know what you expected me to say, but that was.
I thought you were going to go with the Dow for Bance.
Oh no! Oh. Nah, sorry, I can't do that. I'm not there. I love Paddy, but it's again the mantra. Until they've done it, they haven't done it. So, yeah.
Good call.
No, I love it. I've got a sneaky feeling, and here's my one. I think Jackson Binns is going to retire Lockie O'Brien.
Oh.
I think just reading between the lines of the pickups, I think Lockie Cowan was purchased, which allows Carlton to, I think, maybe push Newman out, was my thinking, because I think Newman's just steady. He doesn't really offer anything in variety. And I think that you look at all the best backlines, all 7 who play in that rotation have something that can change a game. And I just don't think Newman's got it other than he's consistent. So I get a feeling that the dream partnership is Blake Acres and Ollie Hollands, very similar players. And they mirror all the top wings in the AFL. All the top wings in the AFL that they had both way running. Then I think Cottrell, and I get a feeling that Binns, I reckon that they'll push them 2 players there because both of them can play high half forward. So my big call is I think Binnsy will be in the 23. And, mate, 2 redheads. Love a little bit of Binnsy. Good call by Bugsbell. Binns set to clean up. There's your headline.
I like it.
Perfect.
I like it. Well, Beachy, been a pleasure to have you as always, mate. Thanks for joining.
No problem, boys. Great to be back on.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Love you, mate.
Me. It's you and I.
I've got to say, how good's this? Like, honestly, you've all left me alone. Well, the chat haven't. You've come over to Pommy and Oz, so I thank you for that. But I've been doing this on my own, just videos for like 2 months on my own. And how good's this? I've got Terry back. I've got my chat. I'm happy. Hey, do you know what I mean? I don't need a holiday. I just need to be on my own for 2 months and realize that I'm not a solitary creature.
A few more bits for housekeeping. Well, I don't have housekeeping. Ugur with the $50 donation. Thank you very much, Ugur. Always an astute supporter and donor of the channel. Thank you so much, my friend. I have something for you guys. So, I have a friend of mine. If meditation and I guess tapping into your piece is for you, and you've been thinking about it, and you've been looking for a teacher, I have someone for you. So I've got a good friend of mine. She's from Sydney. She lives in Israel. She's now a Vedic meditation teacher. If you've been considering or thinking about getting into meditation and wanting to learn, then this is calling for you. I've got a link. I'm going to put it in the comments right now. That's the website, and this is the Instagram. She's in Melbourne. That's the reason why I'm letting you know about this. There's a 3-day session. and I'll give you the details right now. So basically how it works is the course, it's like a little mini refresher, like a little mini course. So it goes from the 10th to the 13th of December. So in a week's time. The 10th is a private in-person session. The 11th and the 13th are 90-minute group sessions on Zoom. So if you want more information, if you are interested in anything like this, get in touch with Tracy. That's the Instagram. That's the website. I've done some of the sessions. I've very much been a bit of a meditation's not for me. I got no time. It works. It helps when you set aside the time. So anyway, that's for you guys if you're interested. I'm going to put something on my Instagram story after the show. And yeah, we should probably do some meditation during the season, Pom. That's probably when we need it the most.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean,
or just go for a dart.
yeah. Mate, honestly, good stuff. Honestly, meditation is very good stuff. So I fully get behind it. Do you know what I mean? We can all use it if you're like hyperactive like me. Just taking that hour to yourself is probably the most forgotten about thing in the world.
Absolutely.
You're the most important thing in the world.
Well, this was a bloody good show. 1.5 hours. Just time just flew.
You've deprived me of Terry time. Do you know what I mean? Like, marry yourself someone like me who misses you as much as I do, Terry, and you'll always have a smile on your face.
Mate, that's why I'm that's why I'm still single, mate. I haven't found anyone to care for me as much.
Hey, do you know what I mean? Hey, we'll clone you a female version of me. How's that?
Love it. All right, ladies and gents, have yourselves the best evening. We'll see you throughout the week, whether it's on the Pommy and Oz channel or here. See you next Monday, and go Blues.
Go Blues.